bird alarms alert us to the presence of predators like big cats, like foxes or owls, or even other people for that matter. Learning to interpret the signs that the birds are communicating to us is something that bird lovers, trackers, even hunters aspire toward. But for me, what gets me really excited is not so much just knowing when there's like a big bird alarm, like the ones that are really boisterous and cacophonous, both audibly and visually, but rather it's beginning to pick out the subtle shift that occurs before that big alarm ever happens. The thing that starts it all, kind of like the domino, like the very first domino that falls, like I want to refine my skill enough so that I can perceive that first domino falling, not the final one that like crashes and everything makes a big noise. So today, during the mindful bird sit, we're going to practice honing this skill of listening for that subtle shift. Hey there, thanks for joining me. If you're new here, my name is Christy, and I help people connect deeply with birds and nature while boosting their skills, elevating their confidence, and helping them to fall more in love with life. If that's something you'd like to do, please subscribe and stick around. You can also check out my new bird lovers community called The Roost. This is a place where bird lovers come to improve their skills, to connect with others and share their experiences, and also have more inspiration along their journey. So if you'd like to be a part of that, you can also check that out in the description below. All right, let's get started. All right, so today's inspiration, it came from, was it this morning? I'm trying to remember right now. Yeah, I think it was actually just listening to my refrigerator. That's, I think, where it came from this morning. So that's the great thing about today's bird sit. It doesn't matter if you're inside or outside. Of course, I always encourage you to go outside if you can, but if you're inside, today's sit is going to be perfect. So it's going to be focusing on our ears. We're using our ears today to listen. And I have one story I'll share with you guys from my past. And that is, some of you might have heard this story before, and it's regarding my dog Teddy. He was my pup for a long time, and I was living at this place, and I was doing some work on the computer, whatever. I was really focused on what I was doing, and it wasn't unusual for Teddy to go upstairs, and it was like an all wood floor, so it wasn't unusual for him to go up the stairs. But this day, as I was typing, like, I don't know if you guys can hear this. Like you know how like a dog's nails on the floor sound? It's just like as they're walking, you can kind of hear their nails. So in the background, I was used to hearing his nails. You know, it wasn't like unusual for me to hear him walking or to hear him going upstairs. So I kind of ignored, he was part of my background environment, like baseline. He was the baseline of my home environment. There was a refrigerator going, there was him walking, there was like other sounds you might hear. And this one day, however, as I'm typing away on my computer, getting really focused on what I was doing, I hear his nails like walking upstairs, but they had this erratic rhythm to them. And he kind of stumbled, and then he like walked again and then sort of stumbled. And it just caught my attention. I was like, something's off, you know? And so I look over and I see he's like about to fall down the stairs. And so I run over to him, and he just can't stand at all. He's super wobbly. And just instinctively, I knew, I was like, I bet, because he always got into stuff. And I was like, I bet he got into something. A neighbor's house, maybe it was poisonous. I don't know. I just grabbed my activated charcoal that I always have on hand. I shoved it down his throat, and I had to carry him actually. By the time it was within minutes, he had like no ability to move that much. And so I carried him into my car, drove him to the vets. They actually were able to save him. It has a happy ending. He was poisoned. It was a slug bait, and I was living in Washington State at the time, and people put slug bait out to catch the slugs, but it's poisonous to dogs and cats, and so he had gotten into it somehow and got poisoned, and it was terrible. It was really, really terrible. It was like shaking, and it's a nervine, I believe, like not nervine, but like a nerve. It affects the nerve. So anyway, if I hadn't been as attuned to his motions and to the subtle sounds of him walking up the stairs, if I had just been like, oh, he's, maybe not even realized that he might have lost his life, because the vet was just like, he had like minutes, it wasn't that much time that he had before they could like get the poison out of his system before it would affect him in a really severe way. So yeah, there's some times where these subtle sounds can make a huge difference in our lives. Other times, not so much. So today we're just going to play with that, and we're going to explore that in the realm of birds. But again, if you're inside, like let your home environment instruct what you're hearing today, because you can practice this anytime, anywhere. It doesn't matter. Okay? All right, so let's dive in. So everyone go ahead and just take a nice deep breath in and let it go, making sure that you're in a place that you feel comfortable, safe, knowing that you can just let go of whatever might be on your mind, whatever is captivating you, maybe had captivated you before you got here, some to-do list, maybe some concerns or worries. But if you've given yourself this time to be here with us, then just allow yourself to do that. Give yourself fully to this moment, to yourself and to the environment around you. And so as you take your breath in, you can allow it to fill your chest and then let it go and start to feel like as each breath comes in and out, really feel how it moves in your body. So we're going to start to go deeper into our bodies. You can close your eyes if you'd like. You're welcome to close your eyes, or you can keep them open, whatever you feel most comfortable with. We will open them again in a few minutes, but for this portion, you can close them if you want to. Allowing yourself to feel the experience of your breath coming in, or the breath. So the air, the new air coming into your lungs, coming into your body, filling your chest capacity, your chest cavity to capacity. There we go. So taking some time to become familiar and friendly with your own self today, with your own body. And as your breath enters and leaves, noticing where like is the furthest stretch of that breath. So can you feel it as you take your inhale? Can you feel that stretch down into your lower belly? Can you feel it up into your chin, maybe even over in your shoulders? Where does it stretch to? Can you imagine your breath reaching down your hips, down to your knees, your calves, and your toes? Or maybe up the back of your neck to your head, your skull, your eyes, and all the way out your crown. And so now allow yourself to feel your feet. You can even wiggle your toes, becoming present to your feet, connecting with the earth below you. So some of you might be wearing shoes or slippers, and you might have your feet on a wood floor or a stone, whether it's the outdoors, your patio, whatever it may be. But still beneath that is the earth somewhere. So feeling the connection between your feet and the earth. Can you imagine what this connection might be? And again, becoming friendly with that space of the earth. So from your feet down to the earth, building that relationship between the two of you. Taking a moment simply to acknowledge that there is a relationship there with your feet on the earth. You as a human animal today. Beautiful. And so now you can continue to keep your eyes closed for the next couple of minutes if you prefer. And we're going to send our listening into the environment around us. And just imagining like a wave leaving your ears and stretching out in either direction or both directions away from you. And you're just scanning the environment, kind of gently like a wave would roll into the shore. You're just scanning the environment for the sounds that are around you, building that relationship with your audible environment. And now imagining that you can hear The furthest sound. What is the very farthest sound that you can hear right now? Stretch your ears, even if you're inside. Can you listen to the sounds that are outside, or at least listen for them? Beautiful. So now on your next in-breath, take a nice deep one in. And as you let go, we'll gently open our eyes and go ahead and find a point off in the distance. We're going to shift now into our practice of owl eyes or softened vision. So you're going to find one point to focus your eyes on. It could be about 50 feet, maybe 20 feet or so away from you. And allow your gaze just to focus on that one point. And while you're focusing on that one point, you're now going to start to expand your vision in all directions. So we'll begin with right and left. So start to stretch your vision to the furthest to the right that you can and the furthest to the left while you're still looking forward at that one point. And let everything just start to become soft. And notice what you begin to pick up and perceive. Beautiful. And now you can stretch your vision above and below. How far above you can you see and how far below you? And if your vision starts to become blurry, that's perfect. That's just what you want it to do right now. Getting nice and soft. Noticing what happens internally to your body, your emotions even, and then what you perceive externally with your eyes. Lovely. And then you can soften your vision or just get it back into focus if you'd like. And you're welcome to return back to this owl eyes or softened vision practice throughout our session today. You can choose to be focused or unfocused, whichever one you prefer, because mostly we're going to be focusing on our ears today. So right now we're going to begin by taking in the overall soundscape, so kind of like the baseline of our environment right now. So oftentimes our environment around us has like a background hum or just like a rhythm to its sound. So let's begin by taking stock of what that just kind of background rhythm is for us. So it's like the whole picture, not necessarily anything specific, like not one sound or another, but kind of like background music. What's the background music that you're hearing right now? And once you feel you have a good sense of that, then start to pick out some of the more dominant features, the more dominant sounds, not necessarily the loudest sounds, because like you can think of like a trickle of water is a dominant sound, even though it might be a quiet sound. So begin to become familiar and friendly with those sounds that are dominant in the rhythm of the background sounds and the baseline of your soundscape right now. Okay, good. So now that you have a good sense of your baseline rhythm, the baseline sounds, what we're going to do for the next couple of minutes, we're going to stay in silence. What I'd like you to do is listen for any time that background or baseline rhythm shifts. So we're going to really be giving our attention to that baseline rhythm and noticing if there's a shift that occurs and what that shift was. So we'll let ourselves stay in silence right now as we listen for that. Good work so far. So, as you might have assumed, the mindfulness part of this practice today is allowing yourself to return to our focus. So, your mind may wander, your thoughts may wander, you might forget what you were here to do today. But the mindfulness piece is to catch yourself when you notice that you've forgotten and return back to the baseline rhythm of the soundscape and listening for that, listening for any subtle shifts that might occur in that. So I'm going to let us stay in silence as we do this for the next 3 or 4 minutes, and then I'll return with another addition to our practice. Nice work, everybody. So, some of you may notice that there are different waves that come through. Like, let's say you got familiar with the baseline sounds, and for instance, like the refrigerator shuts off, then you have a new baseline. So there's now like a missing of that sound, but a new baseline has emerged. And so just acknowledge that when you come to one of those crests or peaks in the wave of the baseline rhythm behind you, just acknowledge that you're in a new phase, like you're in a new part of that wave, and allow that to become the baseline. So you're listening for a change in that rhythm. Okay, we'll let ourselves do that for the next couple of minutes. All right, so we're going to ramp it up a little bit and take it to another level, get a bit more advanced here. So, as you're listening now, what I'd like you to do is refine your listening even more. So, maybe you hear the refrigerator turn off or the dripping outside, it stops. So, whatever that is, but what I want you to listen for now is not just, I'll use the refrigerator as an example. So, not just the refrigerator stopping, like the motor stopping, but is there a sound that occurs before the motor stops? So, kind of backing yourself up even further to, is there something that indicates that the motor is about to stop that you can listen for, right? So, again, whatever it might be out in the forest, whatever you're listening to with the birds, is there a sound that happens before that broader sort of wave change, right? Because there's something that causes that wave, that peak and valley of the wave of the soundscape. So can you hear what occurs right before the bigger shift or the missing of that sound? And we'll let ourselves stay in silence for a couple minutes. All right, everybody, good work. So take the next moment or two to offer a blessing or gratitude for any of the ones that you might have connected with this morning. And even and in particular to those human-made apparatuses, if you were connecting with any of their sounds today. All right, beautiful. So, the great part about this practice is that it will help us to become more skillful at perceiving those bird alarms and becoming more attuned to the wild birds around us. And we can practice anytime. It doesn't matter if you're driving in your car or if you're waiting in line at a grocery store, whatever. You can practice this skill of honing it and getting, listening for the baseline sound and then noticing when there's a subtle shift in that baseline sound and then what might be the cause of that subtle shift, right? All right, so if anyone has to head out now, you can head out. Thank you so much for coming. But please do stay because we have a chat at the end to talk about the session and what it was for everybody. And oftentimes, some really interesting things can come up from this time together. So, who would like to start and share what it was like, what their experience was from this morning? Anything that occurred for you? Yeah, Anne Marie, go for it.
Okay, I'm going to turn off my video because my internet's been weird, but
Sure thing. No problem.
there we go. It was very peaceful. Um, I felt a great sense of relaxation right now. Um, it there was a pretty much baseline calm while I was doing it. Uh, but then I was noticing I usually have some air traffic going by, and there wasn't as much until the end. And then there was a little more agitation in my little feathered friends.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and there was kind of a steady stream of cars that go by in the front. But then I could hear little chatter, like the nuthatches were in the holly bush behind me, softly chittering. And then the two of them decided to fly over to one of the other bushes near the bird baths and things like that. So it was nice to listen for the quiet. I also heard a Carolina wren, you know, burst out in its song and then the rattle after. But then the mockingbird didn't like that and did his little like scram call. So it's like, oh, okay, maybe it got too close to his territory. So we'll see.
So that's interesting. So your interpretation was that the mockingbird didn't like the Carolina wren's burst of song.
Or 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 it was acknowledging something else that the Carolina wren triggered the mockingbird to. I could not tell which it was, but definitely because with the rattle that came from the other wren, then I was like, well, maybe there's something over there that they were just saying, back off a little bit. So
Huh. Yeah, because now this is another thing that can be sort of like that next level with bird alarms and bird vocalizations, and that is that sometimes I've experienced song to actually be an alarm. Has anyone else ever had that experience before? It's something I didn't notice until just a couple years ago, but it actually was with a wren. It was the house wren at my house that was nesting. And more than once, multiple times, I had experienced it breaking out into song when it actually was like agitated and upset. And uh, and this surprised me. I was like, that's weird because I know that it's upset right now, but it's actually like it's singing. And I thought song was, for like everything's okay, this is all good. And I reached out to a few other bird language people to see if they'd ever had that experience, and other folks have concurred that that has been that can occur sometimes. So just wondering, Anne-Marie, if what you were picking up on was was something, yeah, that something's like something else is happening, right? So you heard the wren first, then you noticed the mockingbird, and like I wonder if there was yeah, it just what else might be going on, you know?
Yeah, they are they're aware of so much more than I'm taking in my world. I'm trying to, but
Yeah.
yeah, I was like, okay, they've seen something or communicating with each other.
Yeah.
I'm hearing part of it, but I'm not part of the conversation. It's like I was eavesdropping. So,
Yeah. Well, and that's why we're doing this, you know, to start to hone that skill, because you were able to pick up on the song and the response. You noticed that that mockingbird either responded to the wren, or like in a similar vein, or maybe it was seeing something else and also had its response to it. But you were able to perceive that, right? And so that's why we do this practice, is to get better and better, more and more refined, so that you know the next time that maybe you'll hear the note before the Carolina wren starts to sing, or you'll hear, you know, who knows where it can take you. But you know, I think that's why we're doing what we're doing, is to just continue to refine this. So nice work. Yeah, good job on that.
thank you.
Yeah, for sure. All right, who else would like to share their experience from this morning? It doesn't have to be that you heard or didn't hear a bird alarm. It could be anything. Yeah, Anne, go for it. I can give you the button too if you
Well, mine hasn't happened yet, but I'm watching to see if it will. It's breezy, it's gusty. I'm listening to the leaves and I can hear when a larger gust is coming
want.
because of the noise level picks up. And I've been trying to watch the finches at the feeder to see if they'll take off
Yeah.
before the wind gets here, if they're hearing the sound, except I think they're blocked from the shed. So I've just been trying to look to see if, well, my voice just stare off. So, but to see if that makes a difference with the birds,
Have you
or
had
did they wait for the wind to get here
right?
to
And so
flutter on?
it sounds like what your experience is that the wind pushes them away. Is that something?
Or maybe just it's so much that because they're here on little feeders and that kind of stuff that
Yeah.
maybe they're not stable, that it just
Oh,
disturbs them.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
But I'm not seeing that it does.
Interesting. I love your question. You always ask really great questions of the world around you. You know, it's like these great scientific experiments that you conduct out there.
Yeah, that's my life. Thank you.
Yeah, of course. I love it. Awesome. Who else wants to share? Jackie, thought you would. I can give you the button here. Let me get, oh, you got it.
Got it. So, yeah, well, like Anne, I was listening to the sounds of the wind. You know, there's sometimes traffic, you know, I can listen to the wave. It can sound like a wave. I've turned that sound into waves in all the places I've lived where there's traffic. So it's not a disturbing sound. And then Uh, but yeah, it had this sense of, it reminded me of being on the Northern California coast or the Northwest coast where the waves are crashing against the rocks and how dramatic it is. And, you know, and they can come in from all these different directions. And, and that was really cool to notice the subtleties of that. Because a lot of times the wind's just shh, you know, but this was whoop, whoop. And it was if little sprites were flying on the wind. It was really fun. And I mean, and the birds were just, I mean, I could reach out and touch them. it's so fun when we have these bird sits. They don't seem perturbed at all by voices. They could care less. It's like it means nothing to them, our human voices, I guess. And of course, as I sit longer during our sessions, they just all come in and just doing their thing. And there were a couple ravens up there just doing their little chat to each other. Oh, it just landed back up again, one of them. It's just really magical.
Yeah,
So,
yeah, that is beautiful, Jackie. You often have really magical experiences out there, and um, was just thinking about, or there's something you said after the waves of the sound. I was gonna touch on. I can't remember what it is right now. I can't remember. I
well,
don't know.
it was difficult for me to really have a sense of when it was going to start. It's just, but once I was aware, I could feel it building, so it's like, okay, try to be aware a little earlier or something like that.
And was that with the wind or with the sound of the cars?
With the wind.
The wind. Uh-huh.
With the cars, I know when the lights change, and I can tell
Yeah.
it's quiet, totally quiet for a
Yes.
while, and then the light changes, and yeah, there'll be the wave of cars.
Yeah, and isn't that so interesting? I mean, we each probably have something like that in our like audible experience or world that we just know. Like the lights changing. Like if someone could come by and be like, "All right, Jackie, I'm going to give you $100 for every time you tell me a light's changing." Like you could do without ever having to look at the lights. You could do it. Like you already know that that's part of like that's what's happening in the background. So a lot of us often like tune that out, but that's the piece that that's important for this practice, this kind of a practice to develop this skill to listen to. So like, can you hear the moment before the cars stop or before the cars start up? Is there something else that or before the light changes, like maybe when it goes from like red to yellow or green to yellow, like what is that? Again, like not that you have to do anything different. It's just more all of us, like what can we do to step back, like like just even a centimeter before that thing that we've become so familiar with. Yeah, nice work, Jay. And what was it that you mentioned the bird, you mentioned the ravens, but there was something else that you talked about right before the ravens. What was that?
Um, oh, about how the birds just come really close and they don't seem to pay attention. Even if I'm visiting with a friend in the yard,
Yeah,
and we're laughing and they
yeah,
just don't even, yeah, it doesn't seem to bother them. I'm sure there's some sounds that would bother them.
yeah. And a lot, I mean, so much of it, as you guys have all experienced, it's like when we do these sits, we sort of go into a different state. We come into a more natural rhythm. So we aren't as, like our vibration that we're putting out there is more aligned with a natural rhythm. And so it's not so distracting or disturbing to the birds, but also I think it is a lot about the energetic. So even if you're out there talking with a friend or whatever, if your friend was yelling at you, or maybe even if your friend was like just telling you a story and they were angry without like the voice raising, like that might elicit something different in the birds around you. So, but yeah, I love that experience because what often happens when we do these kind of sits, not just here, but like when you do it on your own or with me, doesn't matter, um, is that our mind does start to shift away from like, get the bird, see the bird, find the bird, to like just being here. And then guess what happens? The birds come, So it's like one of those magic things with life of like, when you let go of the focus of like I gotta have this thing, like it comes. And and so yeah, that's been my experience too with the birds is when we're able to let go of that and just give ourselves over to something else, give our attention to like, I'm really going to listen right now, and that's what I care so deeply about. I care about the sound. Then the birds are like, cool, she's preoccupied, she's doing something else. Like she doesn't care about me right now. Yeah. Yeah, right on. Thanks for sharing all like the wholeness of your experience there.
Sure. And I had one other thing I wanted to say that about how important this bird sit is to me because, and I sit every day out here, and every now and then I can't, I have to rush to go do something. And the other day that happened and I felt so discombobulated. I love that word because it's like, it really, you're just like, and, I was going, why do I feel this? I'm just not, yeah. And I realized, oh, I didn't do my bird sit this morning.
Uh-huh.
It's so, yeah, it's so important to me and uh, so thank you.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah,
high
you're right.
five, Jackie. Well done. And on a funny note, your story reminded me of there's comedians out there that like kind of play on words. And when you said discombobulated, I was like, yeah, it is a word that really does describe that feeling. Like it's almost like visually you can see what discombobulated would look like. But then I thought how it would be funny, like when you take the word dis or the part of the word dis away and you say combobulated, like how many people ever say combobulated? Like I'm feeling very combobulated today. You know? Like I'm totally combobulated, versus like discombobulated is like everything's like blah. So like is combobulated that like everything's like organized and like all together? Like I don't know. I just think that would be fun to like dive into. I love words. So
Me too. Yeah, that's great.
I'm feeling so combobulated. All right, who else?
Combobulated.
Oh, good.
Combobulated is not a standard English word,
Excellent.
but a humorous and informal term created as the opposite of the actual word discombobulated. So discombobulated is a word, but combobulated is not. It's a
Which is weird.
humorous word.
Because you'd think like to put dis in front of it, like to put that with prefix, you'd have to have like the other word would have to mean something, right? Like it'd have to have its own
Yeah.
meaning, wouldn't it? Yeah.
Ask the
Maybe.
librarian.
Okay.
Thank
Yeah, right? Maybe we can Google the etymology of it. All right. Anyway, Julia, did you have anything? I saw you leaning in there. Okay, go for it.
I was wiping water off my computer. I'm sitting under a tree. We had rain last night, and every now and then I get off the water on here.
Part of your
Uh,
baseline.
I This is difficult because I'm thinking by the time I hear something, I don't know what I heard before that. You know, okay. So one thing I did notice, we had rain last night, and there's still some leaves on the trees, but there's there are little breezes coming in now and then. Um, and so I was here, and it caught my eye. The leaves that are on the tree started shaking like a breeze, and then I looked up, and there was some more on the bigger tree in the distance, and that's when I heard the leaves. And I didn't hear anything before that, but I may have known because it was such a gentle, soft sound. I might not have heard the rustling of the leaves if I hadn't seen it. And I think, yeah, it, I was thinking how much I depend on a combination of senses to give me information.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I mean that is a human experience, like ideally and hopefully we all are, blessed with having all of our senses as long as we can. And thank goodness for all of them together, because they really do inform a fuller picture. And it's only doing things like this where, or if something happens in life and you either are born that way or no longer have one of your senses, then um, how your body learns to adjust. But yeah, I do think that it's only sort of at moments like this where I intentionally like mindfully have like tune out the visual world and just listen, even closing your eyes and just listening. And so um it's really for me like only an opportunity, or I only do it as an opportunity to like hone a skill, not so much as like I'm gonna walk around and like always close my eyes or something like that. That's like the ideal way to be in the world. And yeah, but I think that like the more that we can, so like you said that if you hadn't seen the leaves moving, that you might not have heard them, or maybe it took that to like cue you in that there is a sound to hear. Uh and yeah, and maybe that's like the first layer for you. The first step is to like to hear the leaves at whatever stage you hear them. And then we can keep asking ourselves like, okay, so like what could I hear before that? And maybe it's nothing to do with the leaves, maybe it's something else that occurs before the leaves even start to move, and that's where we could start to get into felt sense. We could get into visual, but maybe there's a different sound in the landscape that occurs before the wind approaches. I don't know. Like maybe it's not, but yeah, those are kind of some of the fun questions I like to ask myself, or like pushing myself a little bit more to hone that skill.
Mhm. Yeah. Are you doing the roost on Wednesday this week?
Yeah, so this Wednesday we start with the sketching class, and what I've told everybody is that anyone in the roost that we're gonna do another, what is it, like 3 or 4 weeks of our Sunday tea and treats, and then after that I've actually gotten a part-time job, and so I won't be doing Sundays anymore, but I'm gonna do a consistent Wednesday session. So whether it is we have a focus, like we have the 4 week sketching class, or we have no focus, but we just show up and like we did on Sundays. Wednesday at 11:30 is going to be kind of like this. It's like, okay, we're just going to do it every Wednesday, and sometimes we'll be focused on something, and sometimes we'll just like show up and do whatever. But
So
yes.
it's gonna be 11:30 and not at 5-ish or whatever it
Oh
was.
yeah, when we do the 5 o'clock ones, those are our special monthly gatherings. So those are like a separate kind of a thing. It's a monthly gathering. And so sometimes I'm gonna have a special guest come on, like I did with Joshua and Michael last month. And then sometimes it's just gonna be me and I'll have something prepared for you guys. So those monthly gatherings are designed to be more like presentation style, or learning something, or a focus for like everyone to kind of come together as like a big group. And the Wednesdays are more, the intention is like, let's dive into something together. Like let's just like learn a skill, or practice a skill, or whatever.
And so is there anything tomorrow then, or this Wednesday?
Yes, that's this Wednesday we start the sketching class.
Sketching at 11:30.
Yep. And if you've when you go into the roost, Julia, make sure you, on the right-hand sidebar, there is, I can even show you guys right now if anyone would like me to do that, I can do that. But go on the right-hand sidebar, there's a thing that says it'll have the event. So always just click on that event and make sure you click going, because then that will send you a reminder for it. It'll send you like a reminder, I think, when it starts, and like maybe a little bit like an hour before it starts or something like that. So you'll get a reminder and a link with that. All right, you guys. I think that'll do us for today. So thanks everyone for attending. I hope to see you all on Wednesday for the sketching class. I have some fun stuff planned for us. And otherwise, have a beautiful rest of your week. Keep your hats on. All right, see you later. Have a beautiful one.